All right, just a quick explanation on the electronics. Obviously, the stock trigger switch has a MOSFET for the optical engagement of the sector gear. I removed all this wiring. The solder leads come out from the back. Nothing major there. And then we're just essentially using this micro switch to be the one that actuates the trigger. These could be reversed, but I've got the one here and the one in the center. These are the two leads that you're going to want to do. And then when those are wired up, I just a little quick mini motor here to make sure that everything's good. But that's pretty much it. And then this will be incorporated into the wiring for the trigger portion of the HPA board. All right, this is just a little follow-up. Our next part of the video, just some rough electrical, show you how I kind of am tying this all together. I ended up, because I'm using Inferno and I want to retain the full auto capabilities, I'll get to that a little bit in a second. I ended up going with two universal switchboards for made by Wolverine. It's these universal wiring kit. So two of those. The reason, another problem, you see some kits that have like little Y harnesses, and they could use the same FCU to power both of them, and I kept running into problems. It didn't have enough voltage or amperage to be able to power both solenoids. So I just said, you know what, I'm just going to do two separate universal kits, obviously two engines, and then run two FCUs. So obviously was my least desirable, but for being able to retain full auto and just the options I wanted to do, I thought that was the best way to go. Some guys, I did a little research, some guys are just obviously using reapers in here, in which case you just tie it into the switch and that's all you need to do. And so that's a much cleaner installation. All right, so I had previously the video on how this switch is. You can kind of see your two contacts are this one down here and then the center one. So I wired them in your universal switch. One side is going to be your trigger contacts. So I spliced this one and this one in, and I spliced them together into here. So that made that connection on there. The other port here on your universal goes to your selector. So depending upon your application, you know, if you tied it in, the kit actually comes with these, of course I just dropped it, with an actual, go figure, I just dropped in there, a little mechanical switch anyway, and you could wire that up. I didn't end up going that direction with this one, but it comes with all the pieces that you need to be able to, you know, connect that if you want to do that. I'll get that out of there in a second. So what I did here is I used the other port for the switch and wire them together, and I using this JST, and my plan is to run just a rocker switch. So I don't plan on being able to switch between, you know, I'm not doing this so I can hose people down. That's certainly not my intention here, but I'm going to put this in the grip of the gun, and this rocker is essentially just another mechanical switch. So some fields that I do play on do allow full auto. The engagements are a little bit further away. Other fields do not. So this will be primarily in semi-auto mode, just with the capability of firing in full auto for testing or whatever the case may be. So it still retains that function. Also, obviously, with a premium FCU, you can adjust that rate of fire. So you know, you're not firing, you know, 20 rounds per second times 40 rounds per second. So, but it just gives you some capabilities there. So I know this looks like a mess. Also, the kit does come with a mounting screw, so I mounted the gearbox here for the DT4 had two small holes that I was able to use here, and then this one, I guess, for your cutoff lever. So these are, you know, pretty, you know, they're not moving anywhere. As far as the pneumatics of it, the kit that I got off Hop Up app. There's a player that was selling the 3D printed piece that goes in here that keeps the two engines, as well as the Y connector. But again, I already explained, this might work for the Reaper, but it did not. I have a Bluetooth FCU and I have a premium, and neither one of those threw enough voltage or amperage to be able to power it. So, all right. So as far as the pneumatics, what I did is I wanted to be able to, again, it depends on your application. I could have ran this probably out through the grip and probably had enough room, but what I wanted to do was to be able to have it come out the back. See a spot right here. So I did Dremel a bunch of material away. Again, you probably don't need to do this, but I'm just explaining to you, say what's going on. And then that will allow me to connect this in here and connect this one here, and then splice it in with an actual, line that would come, out here like this. I haven't trimmed this line yet, but so this is all just a rough setup. And before I close everything up and kind of tuck it all nice and away, I just wanted to show what the particulars are from the electrical situation. I think that just about covers that. Okay, I just want to show the next stage here. So I ran the Y splitter for the line up in here. You can just see how that kind of engages in there. That's nice and tight, no leaks or anything. I did have to reposition some of the pinholes. So with how the selector lines up on the inside and the pane with how the DT4 is, and if you're familiar with that, you know the selector pane that is. I did have to reposition that from I think the last video, just to make sure that all the pins could go through okay. So I did modify that. As I said before, I got essentially two electronics that are feeding through. I've already kind of labeled which one was which, and I've got them tuned exactly the same so far. Now I'll be tuning them to the gun next. But yeah, everything. Camera's not catching it firing in sync, but they are just a shutter speed there. So all right, I'm going to go to next. And that little hole there also helps me be able to kind of make sure things are lining up and went through okay. Again, this was a gearbox that I had that I was going to kind of mess around with, knowing that this was cracked from the stock configuration, but it doesn't seem to affect anything so far. We'll see how alignment works out and stuff like that in the next stage, but so far. One other thing to add, I did end up running the selector switch. So because full auto, doesn't that selector, I mean, you could wire it up so it's that way, so it engages the micro switch if you mount it in a certain way. I opted not to do that. I just used the selector in the universal trigger board and ran the configuration. I just ran a rocker switch down here. Again, I'm not going to be switching into full auto. It's just more or less just to have that capability. There are a couple fields that still allow full auto, and even if I'm doing 10 to 15 rounds per second, that equates to 25 to 30. So this grip is nice for the DT4 because it's just a quick in there, but I plan on keeping the semi most of the time anyway. Most of the fields I do play are on semi, but so just wanted to show that.